Watership Down podcast is intended for listeners who are familiar with the plot. There will be spoilers. This episode is scripted, recorded, edited and narrated by Newell Fisher. Hello, and welcome to the Watership Down podcast episode 139, in which we will be looking at Season 2, Episode 2 of the TV series, and Episode 15 of the series overall, The Roundabout. First of all, a correction from last week, in which I said that Episode 14 was first broadcast on the 8th of August 2000. This was incorrect. The actual date was the 3rd of August 2000. Very excitingly, my posting an image from the new Watership Down graphic novel on Instagram, which I made it clear I will not become a habit, prompted a very positive response from one of Richard Adams' daughters, Ros Mahoney. It's fantastic to know that what we're doing here is attracting such attention. I plan to do a second read of the graphic novel soon, preferably not in the early hours of the morning while in a state of semi-ecstasy over having it in my hands, and will let you know some thoughts after that. In the longer run, my broad approach of going through versions of Watership Down in timeline order means, of course, that the graphic novel will not get the full treatment for about a year. It has to wait its turn until we have gone through, at last check, the remaining 25 episodes of the TV series, the 2002 and 2016 BBC radio plays, and the Netflix series. And it does bear repeating that if I literally run out of versions of Watership Down to go through, this podcast will not keep going on just themed episodes. At some point, the frequency of episodes may have to reduce, quite simply because we will have achieved our goal in a podcast on a very limited subject. I'm still open to ideas with regard to the above. However, I'm very clear that this podcast will always be called the Watership Down podcast, whatever it covers in future. And there is always the chance that I might at some point start another podcast on some theme around what this one has dealt with. Initial thoughts on this in terms of subjects are animation and or anthropomorphic fiction. But I will definitely never make 2 weekly podcasts at the same time. I'm still showcasing Watership Down themed art, details in the notes. Please let me know if you would like your Watership Down themed art to appear as the podcast title image for an episode, with full credit given. Anyway, let's meet some road infrastructure. Season 2, Episode 2, The Roundabout. The 15th episode of the Watership Down TV series was first broadcast in the UK on the 10th of August 2000. It was written by Mary Crawford and Alan Templeton. There will be a link to the episode in the notes. In my DVD copy of the TV series, this is the first episode to have its order changed, being placed after episodes 3 and 4. Yes, episodes 3 and 4 of the second season of the Watership Down TV series are fast approaching. Be afraid. Be very afraid. See episode 14 of this podcast for further details, more specifically from 6 minutes 45. Meanwhile, for us, this remains very much episode 2 of the second season. The episode opens back at Nuthanger Farm. Duster the dog is sleeping out in the open by a patch of turnips. Those 2 raiding geniuses, Hawkbit and Dandelion, are nearby and manage to uproot a turnip, waking Duster in the process. As the untethered dog gives chase, Dandelion falls over while carrying the turnip and has to be rescued by Hawkbit, who distracts him before they both make it to a hedge. Making their way back to Watership Down, Hawkbit attracts the attention of Kehar and persuades him to carry the turnip back to the top for them. Hawkbit is very satisfied with his LRR-like cunning. Kehar drops the turnip on the ground, right by Bigwig, Fiver, Hazel and Strawberry. And now we are suddenly back at the Warren of the Shining Wires, Strawberry's reappearance having foreshadowed this. A group of rabbits are eating a large pile of flayrah, but all is not well. One of the rabbits, named Hickory, is openly talking about how 2 more rabbits went missing yesterday. Hickory is yellow in colour and is voiced by none other than British-Canadian actor Kiefer Sutherland, who uses his own accent. At the time, Sutherland was 10 years on from his heyday in films such as The Lost Boys, Young Guns and Flatliners, and the first season of 24 was 1 year away. A fellow rabbit with an English accent reminds them that Cowslip doesn't let them mention the missing. A doe who is part of the group agrees with Hickory. This orange doe is called Marigold and is voiced by Stephanie Morgenstern, who also uses her Canadian accent. Morgan Sturdy is a bilingual Canadian and is mainly known as a voice actor, screenwriter and director. I'm informed that her best-known role for an international audience may be in the English dub of the anime series and films Sailor Moon as the character Sailor Venus. The other rabbit says there is nothing they can do. Hickory disagrees. He reminds them about Strawberry, who went to live in the high hills with Hazel, the mention of whom causes a shocked reaction from rabbits nearby. Marigold mentions Hazel having invited them all to live in the high hills and relearn the ways of rabbits. The English rabbit says they should have gone while they had the chance. I don't remember this invitation from episode 3. Perhaps it happened off camera. Hickory is about to lay out his plans when Cowslip approaches, played as creepily as before by Stephen Fry. He jokes that they are sharing flavor and secrets and says he will join them. His eyes look as untrustworthy as ever. Back on Watership Down, Hawkbit and Dandelion reach the top of the scarp slope, only to find Pipkin eating their turnip. Bigwig says to let him have it, but Hawkbit says he should get his own. Hazel butts in to point out that Pipkin can't leave the warren. Fiver adds that Pipkin cannot risk being recaptured by Ephrafa. Hawkbit and Dandelion move away, as Hawkbit says sarcastically that he needs to get kidnapped by Woundwort. Bigwig leads out a patrol, telling Pipkin he cannot join. A disappointed Pipkin is joined by Dandelion and Primrose. Not even the offer of being groomed by the two does can lift his disappointment. Hickory and Marigold are approaching Watership Down, having left the Warren of the Snares. They only know Hazel's warren is in the high hills. They are being closely followed by the patrol from Watership Down. Strawberry immediately recognises the new rabbit's smell as coming from his old warren. The patrol intercept the two rabbits, and Strawberry recognises who they are. Marigold recognises Hazel, and Hickory makes it clear they want to join his warren. Bigwig gives Hazel a look. This was probably a complication they could have done without. In the honeycomb, Pipkin, surrounded by other rabbit kittens, is telling Hannah and Keehaw how he is not a baby. Blackberry won't even let him go and search for grubs with Yona the hedgehog. Hannah offers to do it instead, even though she doesn't like Yona. This does not help. The patrol approaches Watership Down with Hickory and Marigold. At a meeting in the honeycomb, Hazel says that the two new rabbits want to start their own warren. Marigold says they would like to be taught how to live like normal rabbits by the Watership Down rabbits. Then they will teach their friends as they leave the Warren of the Snares. Hazel and Bigwig agree that a new warren nearby would be a good idea. Primrose has a flash of inspiration and suggests her old abandoned warren Redstone as a site for the new one. Broom, formerly Captain Broom of Redstone, agrees. There is general happiness at this idea, except from Pipkin, whose request to help is turned down. He leaves the honeycomb with Hannah and Keehaw. Broom alarms Hickory and Marigold with his reminiscences of various dangerous feats at Redstone in the past. Above ground, Pipkin is complaining to Keehaw that he is now a prisoner on Watership Down rather than Ephrafa. Keehaw's advice is to play up being as big a baby as possible. Pipkin likes that idea. Hickory and Marigold are back at the Warren of the Snares. They try to recruit 4 other rabbits to join them. They seem keen on being free. The group scatter before Cowslip sees them. Too late. Nearby, Cowslip is listening in. We see him say to himself, framed by a snare, that freedom is a lie. There is no escape from the shining wire. He laughs gently to himself. This Cowslip goes way beyond the mere denial of the Cowslip of the novel. He just denied the existence of the snares. This one positively welcomes them, to the extent of knowing full well where they are. Is this a simplistic misinterpretation of the original story, or just exaggeration of a villain for dramatic effect in this animation made for children? Still framed by the snare, we see 2 rabbits leaving with Hickory and Marigold. Hickory and Marigold arrive at the site of Redstone Warren with their escorts, Hawkbit and Dandelion. Was that the best choice? The 2 Watership Down rabbits try to warn them not to expect as much as they had at Cowslip's Warren, but the 2 migrant rabbits love it. Hawkbit comments that any place not full of snares is an improvement. Marigold isn't familiar with the cobwebs that block some of the runs, which doesn't really ring true of the Warren of the Snares described in the novel, where large areas of the Warren were abandoned. However, Hawkbit demonstrates an advanced technique for clearing them, called walking through them. Back on Watership Down, Bigwig is taking a nap by a boulder when Pipkin lands on him. He wants to play and says there's nothing to do. Bigwig tells him to go and find some clover, but Pipkin points out that he isn't allowed to. He asks Bigwig if he can get it for him, as he is suddenly tired. Bigwig asks Primrose and Blackberry to look after Pipkin while he gets him his clover. Keehar's plan is working. Near Redstone Warren, Dandelion is impersonating a fox as part of Hickory and Marigold's allele evasion training. Hickory's attempt to double back into long grass after losing his scent in a stream is a disaster. He fears he will never be good enough to survive. The two trainees say they were never told stories of Ella-Ra at their old warren, and there was no Owsla. This hint at tales of Ella-Ra, as he should be called, being training aids is very authentic to the use of such stories in human society, where they can be used to model preferred behaviour in an entertaining way. Dandelion decides this is an appropriate moment for a tale of Ella-Ra. The tale he tells is first created specially for this series. He tells of a time when rabbits lived above ground and were especially vulnerable to the allele. Ella-Ra and Rabscuttle went to Prince Rainbow for help, and he advised them to go to the Valley of Wisdom and wait for Frith to appear. At this point, the animation switches to the stylised portrayal used for such tales. Frith challenged Ella-Ra to earn wisdom by leaping across a great chasm to a high platform at the centre of the valley. Rabscuttle begged him not to take the risk, but Ella-Ra loved his people enough to risk it. He made the leap, and as a result realised his people needed to protect themselves by digging burrows. The story doesn't quite ring true when you consider the tale of the blessing of Ella-Ra, where he dug a burrow to hide from Frith, which resulted in his bottom being blessed because he wouldn't come out. But who said myths and legends had to be consistent? Dandelion goes on to tell Hickory and Marigold of the time he dared to enter the cavern of a Hroodoo, or a garage to you and me. Dandelion explains what Hroodoo's are. Hawkbit leaves. He has heard all this before. In the cavern, Dandelion saw the bright shining eyes of a Hroodoo coming at him. Hickory asks him what he did. He shouted at it to stop, and it did. This is a classic tall tale, but one with a point to it, as we will learn later. Story's over. They carry on with the training, as Keehar dares the fish in the stream to show themselves. Back at Watership Down, Pipkin is annoying Bigwig again by insisting on sleeping next to him in his burrow and fidgeting. At Redstone, Hickory and Marigold are sleeping above ground at night as part of their training. Keehar is close by asleep. Hickory suggests they should face down a Hroodoo like Dandelion once did. That will make them brave once and for all. At first light, they arrive at a roundabout. Hickory wonders where all the Hroodoo's are and immediately finds out as a large truck rushes towards him. He dodges out of its way onto the grassy island at the centre of the roundabout and is trapped. Marigold says she will get help. Hawkbit, Dandelion and Keehar are looking for Hickory and Marigold. Just as they decide they must have returned to their old warren, they hear Marigold shouting for help. She explains what has happened and asks Dandelion to come and stop the Hroodoo's. Shouldn't that be Hroodoo-dill? Back at Watership Down, Bigwig has had a poor night's sleep. Pipkin joins him, and Hazel above ground, reminding them that something bad might happen to him if he is left alone. Bigwig agrees, menacingly. Back at the roundabout, Hickory is in a panic, trapped out in the open on a small patch of grass with cars rushing past him. Keehar flies over and tells him to keep still. Marigold tells Hawkbit and Dandelion why they went there, to become more daring. Hawkbit is unimpressed. Dandelion makes a run for it and joins Hickory on the island, but he is too scared to move. They are out of ideas. Keehar flies to fetch Hazel. He will know what to do. Back on Watership Down, Pipkin's head games are interrupted by the arrival of Keehar. Pipkin comes clean about what he has been doing, and as he begs to come with them to help, and Hazel relents. Hazel, Bigwig and Pipkin make for the roundabout with Keehar. At the roundabout, Hazel makes straight for the island. Meanwhile, Hannah, flying on Keehar's back, spots some flightless geese near the road. She shouts down to the rabbits to ask them how they cross the road. Immediately, Pipkin, the master of talking to other animals, goes up to the geese and asks them. One of the geese, who appears to be German, explains that when they walk across the road, the cars stop. This echoes what Dandelion said happened to him earlier, which was the whole inspiration for the situation Hickory now finds himself in. Pipkin asks the geese if they will help, but they walk off. Returning to the roundabout, Pipkin suggests that they all try crossing the road at the same time. Hawkbit says that is a good way to get them all killed, but Marigold, reminding them of the motto of the Owsla, who dares wins, makes her way into the road. Without thinking, the rest of them follow her. Hazel looks on horrified. A yellow sports car rounds the corner at speed and stops. Bigwig bellows to get Hickory off the island immediately, which they do. As soon as they are all off the road, the hoodoo continues on its way. Pipkin comments how fortunate it is that he came along. Back at Redstone, Hickory and Marigold say they will return to Cowslip's warren to let the others know what they have learned. They will meet again at Redstone at the next round moon, says Bigwig. Hazel says to be careful. They want them as their neighbours. As Hickory and Marigold depart, Hazel comments to the others that they have risked everything for freedom, and then worry that they are not brave enough. They set off back to Watership Down. Is it canon? One of the best features of this episode is a new tale of El-ahrairah, as he should be called, and the inclusion of Rabscuttle is especially pleasing. We also see the up and down sides of myths, legends and tall tales, as one such story both inspires recklessness in Hickory, but also, in a roundabout way, pardon the pun, hints at what to do about it. So, canon? No. But definitely a story in the spirit of Watership Down. Would that the same could be said of all the episodes. Next time, part 1 of the silliness that is the Rabbits of Watership Down's trip to the seaside.